A concealed episode of my life prior to marriage, a genuine tale of betrayal. Hello everyone, I am Mia. Was born and raised in Virginia, a tranquil place adorned with tree-lined streets and long rows of houses. During my formative years, I was primarily in the company of my parents. My mother was a gentle soul, always smiling at me from the early morning as she went about her preparations. Morning meal extending into the evening. In the small kitchen, she cherished my father, a man of few words yet immense responsibility, who toiled diligently to provide for our family. In a quaint, unpretentious home, warmth and affection enveloped us. All that lingered in my mind was flawless, or so I believed. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, allowing me to keep sharing more captivating true tales like this one. Be sure to watch this video all the way through, as the narrative is bound to captivate you. But then, when I was just 15, my entire world came crashing down. My mother departed this world after a sudden and unforeseen illness, leaving me in a state of bewilderment, unable to grasp the reality of what was unfolding. The sense of void deepened. I observed my father succumb to solitude in a home that once resonated with joy. We persisted in our shared existence, yet the bond that once defined us had faded away. Each dawn, I set off for school, and with the fall of night, I returned home. It remained the same kitchen, the same humble meals, yet my mother was no longer present. So far, each meal has only included 2 people. The gap between my father and me seemed wider than the very walls of our home, when I turned 18, and he chose to remarry. It was a jolt, even though I understood deep down that he was worthy of joy once more. His new wife, my stepmother, possessed a warmth and gentleness that was truly remarkable. She arrived with her son Alex, who was a year younger than I was at the time. It felt peculiar, as though my existence had been flipped on its head. Once more, the tranquility I had once cherished was slipping away. At first, I experienced a sense of unease as I attempted to bond with my younger brother, despite the fact that he had never given me any reason to feel this way. He was reserved and, like me, was attempting to adjust to our new circumstances during the evenings. The entire family would come together in the living room, my dad and stepmother engaged in conversation about work or future plans, while Alex and I shared knowing glances. Overwhelmed by confusion, I found myself lowering my head in response. Family meals transformed into moments for us to truly understand one another. In an unusual manner, Alex frequently offered assistance. Me with food, a simple act that carried great meaning. He was often reserved, speaking little, yet there were moments when his gaze would hold just a fraction longer than expected. I found myself pondering whether I was being overly sensitive, or if it was just a younger brother's affection for his new older sister. Yet there was an undeniable tension that neither of us addressed, feelings that should have remained purely sisterly but had grown increasingly complicated. There were instances during the day when my heart would race at his nearness, and I loathed that feeling. I detested the realization that I had begun to see him as something beyond a brother. One night, I heard a light. Footsteps echoed in the hallway as Alex slipped into my room, a familiar routine we shared. We would engage in brief conversations before he retreated to his own space, but this time, he lingered a bit longer. His gaze lingered longer than usual, searching mine, as if he yearned to convey something profound. Uncertainty clouded my thoughts as I contemplated my response. The air around us was heavy with tension and electricity. The silence lingered, extending endlessly, before I could even process it. As I nodded, I subtly encouraged him to linger a bit longer. We sat together in the darkness, 2 strangers who felt an inexplicable closeness. To be truthful, I had a strong fondness for Alex. He possessed a striking charm that captivated my gaze. At times, I found myself questioning whether guilt should linger in my mind, given that he shared my last name. Yet, such thoughts were ephemeral, quickly overshadowed by the rational understanding that accompanied our coexistence beneath the same roof. We rested in separate rooms on the 2nd floor, while my father and stepmother resided below us on the 1st floor. This arrangement sometimes led to awkward situations. At crucial junctures in our lives, Alex and I found ourselves navigating through significant changes. I was a college freshman, and he was a senior in high school, consumed by the weight of impending exams. We were both navigating the unfamiliar cadence of life, yet the tension that lingered between us was unmistakable. On those quiet evenings after school, we would find ourselves together on the sofa in the living room, the soft glow of the TV casting shadows in the silence as we grappled with our unspoken thoughts. The emotions swirling between us were anything but ordinary, transcending the typical bond of siblings. I came to understand that my feelings for him transcended mere familial love. This revelation left me bewildered, yet I couldn't ignore the way my heart quickened at the sight of Alex. It was a tranquil evening, much like any other, when I recognized that this night would unfold differently. My parents had embarked on a 5-day trip, leaving Alex and me to navigate the quiet of home alone. Initially, we relished the thought of a break from adult supervision. That evening, we found ourselves in the living room, watching a romantic movie that neither of us had any real interest in, merely a way to pass the time. I had prepared some snacks, dried squid, fruits, and a few cans of soda, after a hectic week. As the movie began innocently, we chatted casually, laughter echoing in the stillness of the house. However, an unexpected scene unfolded, showcasing a couple in a passionate embrace. For reasons we couldn't quite grasp, we fell silent, the laughter faded, and the space between us thickened with unspoken words. I felt Alex's gaze upon me, a warm sensation spreading through my body as I sat there, clutching my soda can to steady my nerves. Suddenly, without warning, Alex embraced me. His movements were strong, unexpected, and utterly irresistible. His kisses were urgent, as if all the emotions we had suppressed for so long had finally erupted. I couldn't resist, my heart raced in turmoil, yet my body responded differently. In that moment, we crossed the line that separated sibling affection. The darkness of the quiet room transformed that night from an ordinary evening into something entirely different. It marked a significant turning point, a change that I knew would alter everything for us that night. Alex and I were inseparable, shattering all boundaries, as we exchanged only a handful of words. Everything happening instinctively, a result of what had been suppressed for so long. The closeness we once maintained faded away, replaced by emotions we could no longer control. I vividly remember the feeling of the next morning, as the gentle sunlight filtered through the curtains. I lay next to Alex in what should have been my peaceful sleeping space. Everything around me was unchanged. The room was quiet, the light warm, yet something within me had irrevocably shifted. We exchanged few words, sharing glances that seemed to convey a mutual understanding. Our lives would never be the same again. In the days that followed, my father and stepmother continued their travels, and we took full advantage of our time together. There was no longer any awkwardness, only a complicated comfort. We lived as if we were a young couple in love, free from the watchful eyes of others. Meals transformed from family gatherings into intimate moments shared only between Alex and me. Each night, we watched movies, talked, and ended our days in the same bed. During this time, I let myself forget reality, choosing to ignore that Alex and I were only siblings in name. We existed as a carefree couple, oblivious to the world around us. Eventually the day arrived when my parents returned. Upon entering the house, everything reverted to normal. Alex and I resumed our roles as siblings, pretending that nothing had occurred, that every intimate moment had merely been a fleeting dream. My parents remained unaware, smiling and discussing their travels, while Alex and I exchanged knowing glances, aware that our secret must remain hidden. In the months that followed, we continued our secret relationship, sneaking moments whenever we could. Those clandestine evenings filled with passion became a routine. Whenever my parents went to bed early or had to go out, Alex would slip into my room, and we would hold each other as if there had never been a barrier between us. During the day, we acted as though everything was normal. Family meals resumed without suspicion, while Alex and I exchanged only fleeting glances. This hidden tension left me breathless, yet I couldn't stop the guilt gnawed at me, but it wasn't strong enough to make me walk away. I continued to live in secrecy. Every night with Alex became so familiar that I feared I could never escape. It knew I couldn't let this continue, so I discreetly began taking birth control pills, ensuring that no one would discover my actions. I dreaded the potential consequences of our relationship, yet instead of stopping, I chose to maintain control. About a year later, Alex graduated and moved to a new city for college. When he left, I knew our relationship would inevitably change, even if I didn't want to admit it. The distance made things harder. No more secret nights, no more quiet moments. Shared the physical separation forced us to pause our relationship, though I often felt nostalgic for our past. After graduating, I sought a new path for myself. I applied for a job as an office worker at a digital company. The position was nothing extraordinary, but it offered me stability, a respite from the emotional turmoil I had experienced. That's when he met him, the man who would change my life forever. He owned a successful hair salon in the city and exuded calmness, confidence, and charm. From our first meeting, I was struck by his strength and kindness. He was unlike anyone I had ever known. Every story he shared, every glance he offered made me feel safe, something I'd long yearned for. We fell in love quickly. Everything unfolded naturally, as if we were destined to find one another. Before long, we were married, beginning the family life I had always dreamed of. Now we have a child together, and life feels more complete than ever. My days spent with him and our child provided a brief escape from the haunting memories of the past, even though they would sometimes emerge during moments of vulnerability. I realize I have discovered a new sanctuary, a man deserving of love and respect. Yet, somewhere in the recesses of my mind, the memories of Alex and those clandestine days persist, stubbornly refusing to completely vanish. I often find myself lost in thought, pondering whether I could ever truly let go of the past. Now, with a family to protect, that is what holds the utmost importance. Yet, a lingering guilt tugs at my heart when I think of my husband. He is a remarkable man, always showering me with genuine care and affection. However, every time I gaze into his eyes, a heaviness settles within me, as if I am concealing a part of my history that he deserves to know. I wrestle with the dilemma of whether to share my past with Alex, a thought that haunts my nights. I am torn between the desire to reveal the truth and the fear of keeping this secret forever. The worry that my confession might change the way he sees me looms large. Everything we have built, the little family I hold dear, feels precarious, as if it could all come crashing down with my admission. Yet, living with this secret feels like a weight I carry each day, making me feel unworthy of the love he has for me. Honestly, I find myself at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. As I share my story, I wonder if you will judge me for the pain I've caused and the poor choices I've made in the past. I can only ask you to consider, if you were in my situation, what would you do? Would you choose to confess the truth, knowing it might shatter everything, or would you opt for silence, allowing the past to fade into memory, hoping it never resurfaces to harm those you love? I welcome your advice in the comments below. If you were in my shoes, what would you choose? Should I reveal everything and face the consequences, or keep this secret to protect what I have? I welcome any guidance, understanding, or feedback, as I find myself at a pivotal moment, unsure of the best direction to take next.